Hello, this is Keith, welcoming you to the 2025th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline the 5th of November 2015. The readers this week are Janet, Sally, Colin and Keith, with Robin on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Ferdinand Bouillon and Harry Breur, and is performed by Jean-Jacques Perry. It's used with his kind permission. Local stories include neighbours hit out at firework hurling yobs and grave concerns over cycle plans. The Macular Disease Society Enfield Support Group meets on the second Wednesday of every month from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the Trinity Church Hall, Gentleman's Row, Enfield, EN2 6AN. The meetings are open to anyone affected by central vision loss. Carers are welcome too. For further details, please contact Alan Newson on 020 8886 5659. That's Alan Newson on 020 886 5659. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey. She's on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and she will be pleased to help you. That's Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. Now Janet will read the first item of local news.
Angry residents plan to launch a petition after fireworks were thrown at police officers, leaving one injured. The Halloween weekend was tainted in the borough after families were left terrified by groups of youths hurling fireworks. The incidents took place across the borough and a community officer was left burned after a firework was fired at them in Albany Leisure Centre in Hertford Road. Gina Needs, chairman of Friends of Albany Park, told the Enfield Independent that the community intends to launch a petition banning fireworks unless the person has a public display licence. Ms. Needs added, "This senseless act of ruining Halloween for everyone else." Last year, a public meeting was called to deal with concerns of people throwing fireworks in Enfield, with a police task force set up to tackle the issue. However, the problems have returned with damage left in Hertford Road. Denise Whiteley of Hoe Lane said her family did not venture out of the house in fear after seeing youths throw fireworks at the nearby petrol station. She said, "I could not go outside with my two children. It was not safe to go trick-or-treating. Something must be done. These idiots can do as they please and just throw fireworks at anyone or anything they like." The police officer was struck on his back by a firework. He suffered a small burn as a result and was treated at the scene. No arrests have been made. Miss Needs also said there had been an incident in Tenniswood Road in Enfield North where fireworks were aimed at a home. Another public meeting is set to be held on the issue.
The street at the heart of Enfield Town will become a graveyard if plans to transform the town centre into a cycling and pedestrian highway get the go-ahead, campaigners have warned. Residents and business owners are incensed at plans currently under consultation which could see cars banished from Church Street, with the parallel street, Cecil Road, transformed into a two-way thoroughfare. Linda Miller, the chairwoman of the Enfield Town Residents Association, has joined forces with business owners and has launched a campaign to put the brakes on the current Cycle Enfield proposals tabled by Enfield Council. One of the group's latest posters warns that the Cycle Enfield scheme is perfect if you want to turn Church Street into a graveyard. Speaking to the Advertiser as the campaign group begins to step up efforts against the plans, Ms. Miller said, "The idea that more cyclists will regenerate an area is based purely on the fact that lots of bikes can park in a space allocated to one car. But that is flawed logic, as there is no evidence that there will be more people cycling into Enfield Town." The council is treating Church Street as a cycle superhighway where pedestrians will not be able to cross safely, as in both options currently being proposed. They want to remove the formal crossings and replace them with informal crossings, which will inevitably give priority to cyclists. So how are pedestrians or people with disabilities supposed to get across? How is a blind person supposed to know when traffic is slowing down? Andrew Lachlan, the Enfield coordinator for the London cycling campaign, told the Advertiser that concerns about disabled and vulnerable road users should be taken on board. The RNIB do object to so-called shared space designs, as it is impossible for partially sighted and blind people to tell where the street ends and the road begins, he said. I don't think any cyclists would have a problem at all with more formal crossings where they would let pedestrians cross the road safely.
Following on from Sally's article, this is a further aspect. A senior councillor has stated his party is against a £42 million cycling scheme to revolutionise Enfield. Leader of the opposition, Councillor Terry Neville, has gone against his predecessor in opposing the Cycle Enfield scheme. The plans will see a transformation of high streets in the borough with the building of new cycle lanes. However, Councillor Neville has stated that his party cannot support the scheme as it does not have public support. He told the Enfield Independent, "It is manifestly plain that quite large numbers of public do not support this scheme. I have not seen such overwhelming opposition to any plans in Enfield like it. Whilst it's true that my predecessor as group leader signed a joint bid for funding, that was only ever on the basis the council would produce schemes that commanded clear majority public support. Councillor Lavender signed the bid for funding with leader of the council, Councillor Doug Taylor, as the council secured £30 million from Boris Johnson, the Tory Mayor of London. Councillor Neville added, "If we take Waltham Forest, there has been opposition. Small businesses are showing a 50% downturn in profits in the past 2 years. High streets will suffer as people won't be able to park there anymore. It is a recipe for chaos." Councillor Daniel Anderson, Cabinet Member for the Environment, has hit back at the Conservative leader, labelling him disingenuous and dishonourable. He said they saw the benefits and transformation of a £30 million proposal and signed up for it. I am interested by his perspective because members of his cabinet have spoken on record as supporting this scheme and doing what they can to make it work. I can assure that what he is suggesting is not backed up by our results and what we are seeing, and that the final schemes of each element will be shaped by the consultation. Councillor Anderson also dismissed the evidence businesses will suffer and said it had been proven to boost trade in other parts of the country. He added, "We have an obesity and air quality crisis in Enfield, and this scheme will cut those back. We are, of course, listening to the concerns voiced in the consultation and will shape the scheme around those thoughts."
Now, here is an article that was written before Remembrance Weekend, but you may be listening to this tape after that date. However, I'll read it as it's written, and hopefully the events went off as planned. Casualties of war will be honoured as people across Enfield join in the National Remembrance Sunday services. Mayor of Enfield, Patricia Akechi, will join the sombre service at Edmonton Green on Sunday morning. A parade led by the Edmonton branch of Royal British Legion will meet at Tesco in North Mall for a march to the Edmonton Green War Memorial in Church Street at 10:30 a.m. There will be hymns and a short service before the congregation joins in the national 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. to remember all those who died in 2 world wars and other conflicts worldwide. The last post will be sounded and there will be a wreath-laying ceremony at the War Memorial. In Southgate, Royal British Legion members will congregate at Tudor Way at 10 a.m. before parading at 10:15 along High Street towards St Andrew's Church in Chase Side. The congregation will also mark the 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. Enfield's Deputy Mayor, Bernadette Lepage, and Enfield Southgate MP, David Burrows, will be among those at the commemoration and at a reception and speeches afterwards at the Royal British Legion in Nursery Road. In Enfield, a parade will muster at the Royal British Legion in Holt Whites Hill and at Chaseside Primary School in Trinity Street at 2:15 p.m. The parade heads off at 2:30 p.m. to Chase Green War Memorial for a short service of remembrance and wreath-laying. Afterwards, the parade marches to the marketplace in Enfield Town for a salute taken by dignitaries before a march past Enfield Civic Centre in Silver Street. The parade will then head back to the Royal British Legion for refreshments. On Remembrance Day itself, Wednesday, November the 11th, there will be a short service at the War Memorial at the Royal British Legion in Holt Whites Hill, Enfield, at 11 a.m. Doug Taylor, the leader of Enfield Council, is urging people to attend the services. He said, "Across the borough, the people of Enfield will pay tribute to those who paid the ultimate price in times of war, the brave people who took the risks to preserve the values of a free country. It is in these times that we can be united in giving thanks for their courage, recognising their incalculable contribution to our way of life."
Residents are celebrating after securing sought-after asset of community value status for their local. Richard Matz, 56, of a mental health worker who lives in Partridge Way, Bowes Park, led the campaign to save the Prince Pub in Trinity Road after it closed earlier this year. Together with other members of the Bowes and Bounds community, Mr. Matz said he'd been able to secure asset of community value status for the pub from Haringey Council. The status means that the building cannot be demolished or its use changed without explicit permission from the local authority. It also gives added protection, as it means the council can prevent inappropriate development of the site for 6 months, while the local community is giving a fair chance to respond with its own proposals to make a bid to buy it on the open market. "I live 100 yards from the pub and it's a wonderful old building," said Mr. Metz. "Although I don't own the place and so don't get to decide what happens next, the ACV status gives the community breathing space," he said. "I would like to see it thrive as a great focal point for community groups. It could be a live music venue, for example. There is just so much potential." The pub is within the Trinity Gardens Conservation Area, designated by the council as an area of special architectural or historic interest. Mr. Maz believes the area needs somewhere for the community to come together. He added there's a dearth of local pubs in the area and the community needs a reasonable pub, somewhere that's family-friendly and female-friendly, and it needs to be accessible to everyone. Realistically, you can't survive as a pub if you don't serve food and make it a nice place to be. But pubs can thrive around here. You just have to look a bit further afield to places like the Ranelagh and the Maid of Muswell Hill to see that if a pub is nice and accessible, then it can thrive. Richard McKeever, founder of the Bowes and Bounds website, said he was thrilled the online forum had helped bring people together to fight for the pub. "I'm very pleased," he told the Advertiser. "The forum is a platform for people to do things like this and launch campaigns." Of course, there was a community action before the forum, but the forum operates as a platform and can help people reach out further than maybe just their immediate friends and neighbours.
Doctors in Enfield are considering alternative career plans and even thinking about moving abroad to work because of proposed changes to junior doctors' hours, a politician has claimed. Enfield North MP Joan Ryan told the House of Commons about a doctor who is a constituent and had contacted her to express her grave concerns at how the changes could impact on the NHS as a whole. Secretary of State for Health Jeremy Hunt is proposing to change contracts so no junior doctor will be required to work more than 48 hours a week, with a maximum of 72 hours a week. The changes would also see their normal working hours changed from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Mondays to Saturdays, rather than the current 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Mondays to Fridays. They are paid extra for working beyond those normal working hours. Ms. Ryan said the doctor, who did not want to be named, told her that a significant number of her colleagues were discussing alternative career plans, and many were considering a move abroad to practice in another country. The doctor predicted that frontline services, including casualty, general practice and acute medicine, would be hardest hit. Ms. Ryan also described how another constituent, Dr. Irene Gaffson, who is a junior doctor in obstetrics and gynecology, had joined a march in October and wrote in a national newspaper how she felt let down by the proposal. Ms. Ryan said during the House of Commons Opposition Day debate, "Junior doctors are the lifeblood of the NHS, and the government's handling of the doctors' contracts has caused unnecessary anger across the country. It is now a real threat to the recruitment and retention of NHS staff." An Opposition Day motion urged the government to issue a guarantee that no junior doctors would have their pay cut as a result of the new contract, and called for a return to the negotiating table with the British Medical Association, which represents junior doctors. The motion was defeated. The BMA will start balloting members about strike action shortly.
Council chiefs are seeking residents' views on proposals to shave hundreds of thousands of pounds off the adult social care budget in a move which could see hundreds of pensioners paying for their own transport across the borough. The local authority has issued a questionnaire for people to complete alongside the draft transport policy, which details how council bosses intend to try and make savings of £60 million by 2018, a figure which includes a target of saving £10.8 million from the adult social care budget. The draft transport policy document states, in 2014-15, adult social care spent just over £1.3 million on providing door-to-door transport for adults with eligible social care needs. The report adds that transport is the most heavily subsidised service within the Adult Health and Social Care Department, and the Council's Cabinet has agreed a plan to make £900,000 in efficiency savings, largely by changing the eligibility criteria for people to claim subsidised transport. One of the biggest changes in the report is that someone who receives the mobility component of disability living allowance, person independence payment or war pensioners mobility supplement will be expected to use this money to fund or pay towards the costs of their own transport. On top of that, older people who have savings above £23,250 will be expected to pay the full cost of any transport service they receive. Council chiefs will be issuing older people with guidance on the cheapest transport options available to them, including public transport options. Defending the cuts to the budget, council bosses have stressed that their hand has been forced by the reduction in the local government grant which central government has imposed on them. Alev Kasimiglo, the Cabinet Member for Adult Health and Social Care, said, "We are currently consulting on the way the transport budget is spent and would welcome views from service users and their families. Unfortunately, the scale of the efficiencies we expect we will have to make means we will be forced to make efficiencies across virtually all council services in the coming year. We have not yet made a decision on the way the service will be provided in future, and we will take all the views we receive into account ahead of making a final decision later this year.
Many tributes have poured in for a popular and gifted science teacher. Matt Foster, 38, suffered a heart attack whilst on his way home from working with the Combined Cadet Force, or CCF. The teacher of 9 years at St Ignatius College in Turkey Street, Enfield, has been described as a very warm and generous individual by Executive Head Teacher Michael Kelly. Mr. Kelly told the Enfield Independent, "I worked with Matt for a year before he moved on to further his career, and his generosity distinguished him as a teacher. Nothing was too much for him. Despite leaving, he was still a massive part of our school community. He was a highly respected and loved individual. He would lead a group of about 80 young men in their training, take them on flying days and organise the Duke of Edinburgh expeditions, all in his own time. The school has hosted an assembly in memory of the much-loved teacher." Mr. Kelly said, "It's a subdued atmosphere at the school. The assembly was very tough for us all. Students past and present have been quick to express their condolences and pay tribute to the teacher." Paolo Montella tweeted, "RIP Mr. Foster, best tutor and teacher I ever had when I was at St Ignatius. Without him I wouldn't be where I'm at now." Anthony Thomas wrote, "Simply the best teacher I have had in all my years of my education. Thank you for your great contribution in not only my life but the lives of almost all the students who had the pleasure of being taught by a truly inspirational man. You were a true blessing to this world." Mr. Kelly added, "I would often be invited into different classes, but there was always something magical about the way Matt taught science. We prayed for him and his family and offer our deepest condolences."
Soil from 3 Enfield parks has formed part of an exhibit in one of London's major galleries. A mix of earth and compost from Trent Park in Cockfosters Road, Arnos Park in Arnos Road and Broomfield Park in Broomfield Lane, Palmer's Green, was collected up for an ambitious living sculpture at the Tate Modern on South Bank. The organic material has been used as part of Empty Lot by Mexican artist Abraham Cruz Villegas, who is best known for creating sculptural works from local objects which he has brought or found. This installation, which is the first Hyundai commission at Tate Modern, is made of large stepped triangular platforms made from scaffolding. They support planters which are filled to the brim with soil and are regularly watered and lit. However, nothing was planted in any of the soil for the show. Mr. Cruz-Villiers hopes that visitors might throw some seeds onto the soil, or that dormant seeds or bulbs which were already in the ground from Enfield and elsewhere will bloom. He is interested in guerrilla gardening, whereby people tend unloved plots, and also the tradition of planting small pots of vegetables in his hometown of Mexico City. The artist collected more than 23 tons of soil from parks and gardens across London, including Enfield, to create the 240 individual wooden planters. He said in the middle of a busy commercial area of London, the empty lot is a space where nothing is produced, but where change might happen. The installation will remain in the Tribute Hall of the former power station on London's Bankside until April the 3rd next year and can be viewed for free. Daniel Anderson, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for the Environment, said, "We were asked to participate in the creation of this art installation and we thought, why not?" He added, "It's a slightly unusual way to celebrate our parks and we're certainly in good company." He encouraged art lovers to go and visit the installation and even do some planting if they want to, while they've got the chance.
Campaigners who are opposed to proposed changes which could see the loss of archivist jobs and a reduction in the size of Enfield Museum are considering taking their battle to the courtroom. Enfield Council has completed a consultation about the future of the local studies centre and museum. The local authority is considering digitising part of the collections and making the archives an appointment-only service rather than a walk-in centre. It is also proposed to reduce the display area by ceasing to put on temporary exhibitions on the ground floor of the Dugdale Centre in London Road, Enfield Town. However, the questionnaire has attracted criticism, and some campaigners are considering challenging the council in a judicial review. The Enfield 229, an unofficial Friends of Museum and Archive Services group, said, "We are not sure what the results of the questionnaire can actually give in terms of detailed understanding." The group added, "We have discussed responses with people who thought moving the museum literally meant what it said, and that the display cabinets and exhibition programme from downstairs were being moved rather than closed." Others were positive about digitalisation of archives, only to later discover it was partial, uncosted, and done at the expense of staff and open access. The group described questions about the museum as absolutely meaningless, and said that one asking if the proposal would make a difference to people's enjoyment did not query if respondents thought it would be positive or negative. Aoife Orhan, the council's cabinet member for education, said that it was satisfied the consultation was robust and fit for purpose, and the council was already digitising some items. "We are proposing that we will expand this to other items that make sense to do, such as our large collection of images that might be of interest to the local community and to people around the world who are unable to visit the centre and share in Enfield's heritage," she added. "We will very carefully consider all of the responses to the current consultation, and we will take an appropriate approach to delivering the service to the local community and our duty to make proper arrangements for the collections which are under our care."
It was close but no bone for another year for an MP's Labrador at the Westminster Dog of the Year 2015. The competition sees MPs enter their pooches to be judged by the Kennel Club. However, it would be another year that Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows and his 5-year-old Labrador Chomley would miss out. Having come second and fourth in the past, it was not to be this year for the duo. The Labrador fell behind dogs Lady and Godiva, who were named joint champions. The pair are owned by Conservative MP Andrea Jenkins. The accolade has been dubbed the most sought-after title in politics. Mr. Burrows said, "This competition is all about helping to campaign for responsible dog ownership."
We've now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.